VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Crosstalk here on VCY America. Before we get to our topic today, I would like to make you aware of an urgent matter of prayer. As breaking news reports came out from Open Doors U.S.A. as they monitor Christian persecution around the world, the headline says that 25 to 30 Christian students reportedly were massacred at Northern Nigerian College. Open Doors is calling for prayers for victims, families, and friends. According to the Open Doors sources, Boko Haram, an Islamist militant group, invaded the off-campus hostel of Federal Polytechnic College in northern Nigeria late Monday, allegedly separated Muslim students from Christians, and massacred up to 30 Christian students. According to Voice of America, the students were systematically slaughtered after being individually questioned. One witness told them that the killings took place due to a recent controversy over student elections, but that could not be confirmed. A lot of news yet to come forth on this, but apparently, as Open Doors is pointing out here, that it appears that Christians separated from others and then murdered, slaughtered on account of their faith. Be praying for the families of these that are involved, the families and friends of the victims. And folks, we need to continue to be praying for the persecuted church around the world. It's very difficult to make a segue into our topic today, but we're going to focus in on a domestic program or problem that's taking place as it relates to students and schools all across these United States, as it relates to the brand new lunch program that students were met with this school year. And the bottom line is this, ladies and gentlemen, regarding lunch, government knows best. You see, many people were appalled about a year or so ago when they found out that in one Chicago suburb, that families were prohibited from sending sack lunches to school because we know how to feed your children better than you do. And now, as we see this new school year has started, already 1 month into it in many locations, that the lunch menus have changed significantly to the point where young people are sitting hungry in their classrooms. They're being served food that some don't even recognize. And we have the government that is continuing to tout what it is that young people are to eat. And folks, there's a new bridge that was established because now they're calling upon homes across this nation to feature the kind of food that they're serving at lunchtime. And it's my belief that we are just a step away from the government mandating what you can have in your refrigerator. As students began the school year, though, they were met with a greeting from First Lady Michelle Obama.
Hello, everyone. I want to start by welcoming everyone back to school for another year of learning, discovery, hard work, and fun. And today I want to tell you about some exciting changes that you'll be seeing in your school cafeterias. Starting this year, the talented people who cook the food at your school will be offering you all kinds of healthy, delicious new choices. Foods that are good for you and that taste good too. These healthy foods are good for your body. They'll give you energy and make you stronger. And they're also good for your mind. Studies show that when you eat healthy foods like fruits and vegetables, that can actually help you pay attention in class and do a better job on your homework and tests. And that's really what this is all about. It's about ensuring that all of you have everything you need to learn and grow and succeed in school and in life, because you all are the future of this country. And I want you to know that I believe in you. Your president, President Obama, believes in you too. And we want you to be able to fulfill every last bit of your potential and pursue every last one of your dreams. So I hope that you all enjoy the healthy new choices in your school lunchroom. And I hope you have a healthy and productive school year. Thank you. Bye.
Well, young people are not enjoying these new healthy lunches. Students and parents across the country have been voicing their displeasure at the new standards, which reduce the amount of protein and carbohydrates that school children are allowed to have, increasing their veggie and fruit intake, and put strict calorie caps on the meals. Critics are saying that the meals are leaving kids without having the energy that's sufficient for after-school activities. One of the there are two congressional leaders on this, Representative Steve King and Tim Huelskamp of Kansas. King is from Iowa. They put forth a press release last week, a statement stating that as we start a new school year, it's typically filled with excitement and many changes, but this year, kids and parents across the nation are dealing with big surprises in the lunchroom. Thanks to new calorie bracket regulations from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, children are going hungry in our school cafeterias. The background of the rule and the outcry from parents and children has led to our legislative response, the No Hungry Kids Act. The new calorie maximums are broken down in three categories: grades K through 5, grades 6 through 8, and grades 9 through 12. Last year, the federal government recommended a lunch of a minimum 785 calories for a sixth grader. This year, that same sixth grader will be fed a maximum of 700 calories. So a year ago, it was a minimum of 785. Now it's a maximum of 700. When First Lady Michelle Obama decided to tackle childhood obesity as her primary goal, it was often seen as a noble one. Yet these new regulations resulting from the Let's Move campaign became law because the Healthy, Hunger, Free Kids Act, how do you like that for a name? The Healthy, Hunger, Free Kids Act was passed by a discredited Congress in the lame duck session of 2010, gave the U.S.D.A. free rein to change the school lunch requirements. Kids across the nation are trying to get through the hours in the classroom and in their extracurricular activities after school without enough nutritious food to keep them motivated. Both carbohydrate and meat portions have been dramatically reduced, leaving kids no choice but to turn to social media through Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to express their frustration. Teens in Kansas produced a parody of a song that they retitled "We Are Hungry." Those who felt they had no choice have started protesting new standards in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Kansas, and other places. One teacher expressed that she has now built a new snack time to get her students focused, stating what should be obvious to Washington. She said, "You cannot teach a hungry child." Representatives King and Huelskamp say that the bottom line is that President Obama and the administration continue to find ways to develop the nanny state. If you have found a way to invade the lunch tray of the youngest members of our society, what's next? The new regulations are a one-size-fits-all encroachment of our liberties. The president's technique of using class warfare is now also seen in the lunch line today. If children can't afford to buy more a la carte items, they may do so to supplement their lunches. This leaves those children whose families cannot afford to supplement the bare minimum even hungrier. For many children, lunch is the only complete meal that they'll have each day, and this provides even greater concern for the smaller portions. Folks, this is appearing in media all across the country, and now the Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, well, he's got a solution. It's a new snack solution. You see, this past Wednesday, a week ago, he responded to criticism that these new menus for the schools don't provide enough food for active students and leave them hungry. So he's saying the key is a snack. Now, ABC News reported that the administration is working with school districts to implement snack programs and encouraging parents to pack snacks for active students. And Vilsack told ABC News, quote, "We understand that change is difficult. Some folks love it. Some folks have questions about it. But that's to be expected when you're dealing with 32 million children and you're dealing with over 100,000 school districts." Folks, is this the role of the federal government? To dictate to 32 million children and over 100,000 school districts what should be on their lunch menu tray? That's exactly what is taking place here under this legislation that was passed last session in the lame duck session, giving the U.S.D.A. the authority to do so. Well, folks, there is so much that's going on with this matter. Here we also have complaints in Wisconsin. High school athletes are complaining about not getting enough. One middle school student said, "I know a lot of my friends who are just drinking a jug of milk for their lunch. They're not getting a proper meal." And despite the fact that these new regulations have come about. They have increased the cost of lunch to 20 to 25 cents per plate, and it's not pleasing the students. In New Bedford, Massachusetts, townhall.com reports that students have created a black market for chocolate syrup. The kitty capitalists are smuggling in bottles of it and selling it by the squeeze, according to southcoasttoday.com. Nancy Carvalho, Director of Food Services for New Bedford Public Schools, was quoted as saying that hummus and black bean salads have been tough sells in elementary cafeterias. That means that even smaller children are going through the day fighting hunger pains. One government official tried to put the blame on the students, saying this, one thing I think we need to keep in mind is that kids say they're still hungry is that many children aren't used to eating fruits and vegetables at home, much less at school. So it's a change in what they are eating. If they are still hungry, it's that they are not eating all the food that's being offered. Well, yeah, the kids are bypassing the black bean salads. Many students at McWanago, Wisconsin High School say that the new menu leaves them feeling hungry. That one-size-fits-all does not cut it. On a recent Monday, 70% of the 830 students boycotted the cafeteria foods to register their displeasure. About half of all middle school students did the same thing. A freshman girl who weighs 100 pounds can eat this lunch and feel completely full, said one student. But not all students weigh 100 pounds. Here's Nick Blom, a 6'3", 210-pound linebacker in the varsity football team, said there is less chance of students doing well academically if they're sitting in class thinking about their hunger pains. And what they're finding is that there are all kinds of snack foods that are then going into the schools, bags of potato chips and sodas and all kinds of things to fill those pains. One school district food service supervisor has now handed out comment cards to students so they can express their views about the new menu and plans to send them to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, hoping that the government will allow schools to introduce the lighter menus. Let the local school districts do this, not the federal government. Well, what is the response? Being posted this week on CNSNews.com, the website promoting First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative to combat childhood obesity advises parents, here it is, folks, limit opportunities for children to purchase competitive foods. The website is warning parents about competitive foods. That's food available to children on campus that falls outside of the federally regulated cafeteria food. Foods and beverages provided through the school breakfast, lunch, and after-school snack programs must meet certain nutritional rules to receive federal money, the website states. However, kids can purchase non-nutritious foods in place of these meals. Many schools sell foods outside of the U.S.D.A. school meals in the cafeterias, snack bars, and vending machines that are not subject to federal rules. My comment is, as of yet, that may be the case. But how many schools have banned soft drink machines? These foods are called competitive foods because they compete with healthier school meals. Foods commonly available in these venues include cookies, crackers, pastries, and other high-fat baked goods, as well as salty snacks and sugar-sweetened drinks. Opportunities for children to purchase competitive foods should be limited in schools. If competitive foods are available, they should consist primarily of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and fat-free or low-free milk and milk products. Yeah, let me put 75 cents in this machine. Maybe I can get a piece of whole grain bread with some hummus to put on top of it. We'll be back in 60 seconds. You're listening to Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, how did the human eye evolve?
Chris, the human eye didn't evolve. God had created similar eyes in various animals, but the human eye is unique and functions well. There's no evidence at all that it changed from something else into what it is. Darwin himself was frustrated by the eye. He said the thought that the eye could be formed by processes of natural selection were absurd in the highest degree. But he clearly believed that that's what happened. He felt that certain light-sensitive freckles on invertebrates were the initial step, and that by gradually adding little bit by little bit, it got to be the eye. But the eye has so many interworking parts, all of which must work for any of them to work. It's much more designed than a television camera. And we all know that television cameras don't happen by chance. They were designed, and so was the eye. back in Genesis.
Please email us at genesis@icr.org.
Folks, it's even gotten to the point where government knows best as it relates to the lunch menu, the menu that your child is going to eat, and are mandating these guidelines in school districts all across the nation. An uproar is taking place in school district after school district. Headlines in newspapers across the nation laying claim to the fact that we're becoming a nanny state in this regard. Here's ABC News from September 26. 2 baked fish nuggets, a cup of vegetables, half a cup of mashed potatoes, 1 whole grain roll, and 8 ounces of fat-free milk. That's the fuel that American high school students are federally mandated to receive in their school lunches this year as healthier food regulations take effect. But for a grumbling crowd of students, those 750 to 850 calories aren't cutting it. We hear complaining around 1:30 to 2 in the afternoon that they're already hungry, said a high school English teacher. It's all the students, literally all the students. You can set your watch to it. The Wichita Eagle says school lunch calorie limits leave bitter taste with some students. U.S. News, Kansas kids rebel, call school lunch legislation baloney. Then we have some other releases that have come from Congressman Huelskamp. He said the U.S.D.A.'s website contained an employee newsletter encouraging workers to participate in Meatless Monday, an initiative to encourage people to go without meat 1 day a week. USDA took down the newsletter, said it was not an official statement of the department. However, speculation remains that USDA took down the newsletter only in response to outside criticism. Kansas Congressman Tim Huelskamp, a member of the House Agriculture Committee, issued the following statement. He said, in addition to strangling the family farm and ranch with red tape, the Obama administration seems intent on misleading Americans about healthy food choices. Once the USDA and EPA finalize their regulatory controls on America's farmers and ranchers, Foodless Fridays might accompany Meatless Mondays. Americans have the most abundant and most affordable food supply in the world, but a radical agenda in this administration will reduce America's meal options. It's difficult to speculate as to actual agenda of these bureaucrats, but it's certainly not to assist Americans' farmers, ranchers, and consumers. He also stated that the guidelines that have come out, quite a twist this week, as the USDA Deputy Undersecretary for Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Services, Dr. Janie Thornton, blogged on Monday of this week that parents should replicate at home the meals that their children are being forced to eat in the school cafeterias. I told you, folks, the regulation is going to come. Will dictate as to what can be in your refrigerator. Will there be RFID tags in every item of food so a simple reader can report to the government, a smart meter, what you have in your refrigerator? Dr. Thornton, who is responsible for the implementation of the new school lunch mandates, blogged in response to the mounting criticism that USDA is receiving as a result of its new school lunch requirements. Tim Huelskamp said that USDA quickly retracted its radical promotion of Meatless Mondays, but is embracing this new school lunch mandates. Why don't they do it for their own employees? If the USDA demands that 100,000 school districts change their menus and justifies this mandate because schools receive federal money for lunches, then taxpayers should demand that the USDA cafeteria meet the same standards as USDA operates in taxpayer-funded buildings. Let's see if they eat enough to function. Let's say if they like having choices taken away from them. I looked online at the lunch menus for some of the cafeterias at USDA. Here's the South Cafe, Monday, October 1st. Here's the entree choices: smoked ham, rotisserie chicken, beef fajitas, or chicken mole poblano. Here is on the grill, Cuban pork panini. You can have pizza, pesto chicken pizza. On and on it goes day after day for this going forth throughout this week here. I've got the full menu for the week. Let's see, Thursday, beef top round, rotisserie chicken, sesame chicken, and pork fried rice. Can also have pesto chicken pizza and Cuban pork panini, Mongolian wok, some soup choices there as well. And folks, you can go to cafeteria after cafeteria there at the U.S.D.A. and find out that, hey, they've got menus that are different than what the kids are getting. Tim Huelskamp says that doubling down on this new school lunch policy is obviously not working. Let's undo the mandate, put parents and school districts back in charge of what their kids eat at school. He has introduced, along with Steve King, the No Hungry Kids Act in order to undo the new school guidelines implemented as a result of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act passed by that lame duck session of Congress. So he's trying to counter that with what he's calling the No Hungry Kids Act. And yes, this story is appearing on cnsnews.com yesterday. Government-approved school menus as a model for the family dinner table. Responding to concerns that students are throwing away the healthy food on their cafeteria trays, the U.S. Department of Agriculture acknowledged that adapting to the changes may be challenging at first as students are introduced to new flavors and foods in the cafeteria. But the government also says parents can help school make the taste transition easier. We know that many parents are already making changes at home to help the whole family eat healthier, the U.S.D.A. blogged on Monday. We recommend reviewing school menus with kids at home and working to incorporate foods that they are being served at school into family meals as much as possible. Pass the fish nuggets, please. A recent video produced by high school students in Kansas mocked this. The U.S.D.A. blog appears to be a response to that satire, saying we know it's important that students get the calories and nutrition they need to stay alert and energized through the day. And they are talking about schools can allow kids a certain amount of flexibility to choose only the foods they intend to eat. In other words, what's happening is that kids are given this food on their cafeteria trays, and vast majority of it is being thrown right in the trash. So we have the issue going on across the nation. We'd like to get your feedback on this issue today, but before I open our lines, I do want to give you phone numbers to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, who is involved in putting about these new mandates that they received from Congress in the last lame duck session. That's right. A lame duck session happens after the election, after the November election, and that time between then and when we see the new Congress sworn into office. Folks, it's the most dangerous period in the life of this nation. We're coming upon another one here in just a couple months. But if you'd like to contact the one who is responsible for the implementation of the new school lunch mandates, as quoted by media sources, Dr. Janie Thornton at the U.S.D.A. The phone number to Dr. Thornton is area code 202-720-7711. 202-720-7711. The USDA has a Food and Nutrition Service number that oversees these things. That number is 703-305-2281. Does government really know best? 703-305-2281. And the general number to the USDA, Tom Vilsack is the secretary there, 202-720-2791. 202-720-2791. Let me get your reaction. Some of you parents, no doubt, have kids that are partaking of these lunches. What's been their reaction to it? Do you believe the government has gone too far? Our number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. 800-733-9829. And if government is going to the lengths of dictating the lunch menus in tens of thousands of schools across this nation, what will be next? Do we need a nanny state in this regard to tell us what we can have and what we can't have? There are schools in which they actually go through sack lunches to make sure that there are not certain items that are coming in sack lunches to schools. And then we find out, now these lunches, again, that the USDA is providing, if we find that they're more costly than ever before. And so we get to put the taxpayers' dollars to work again because just a matter of a couple weeks back, the USDA announced grants to help support schools to meet these new school meal requirements. Millions of dollars going out to states to help them with these new requirements. That's coming from your pocketbook as well. And a lot of this food is ending up in the trash. Now, we do have a problem, and getting kids active. When's the last time you told your kids to go outside and play rather than sit in front of whatever machine to text or play video games or whatever? Yeah, we've got to make some corrections. But do we need the federal government to dictate how many fish nuggets your child can have for lunch and what accompanies it? Our phone number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. We're going to begin in Wisconsin. Lat, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Jim. I just want to point out it's not just only the government's going to regulate what we can eat. That's going to carry over to the private sector, and it's going to carry over to portions in your home. And I don't know if people know that President Obama has czars that are going to be regulating what you can buy in grocery stores, the amount you can buy. They're going to actually have czars that can come. He wants to have czars that can actually come into your home, regulate what you have. You can be fined, and they want to do that, too, through the electricity and the heat, and that's another way the government can control you and get fines out of you.
Yeah, that's another issue with the smart meters there. But one thing that we've seen, Lat, I mean, haven't we just seen this take place in New York as well? You have to limit what retail establishments, how many ounces of soda they can sell in a container, sugary drinks. Is this the role of government? Let's go next to Judy in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You're on the air.
Hi. My comment is that I am a vegan vegetarian, and I am learning to like this food for health reasons, and it's done wonders for me. But I don't think the government has any business dictating what we should feed our children. I really don't. And I would have a question as to what President Obama's children have for snacks and for lunch.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite come out. But,
no, I don't think it has, and I wonder what they have when they get home from school.
And, Judy, you bring up a good point. I mean, you're making personal choices for yourself as to what you want. And the family should have that flexibility, not the federal mandate coming down as to what our young people should be eating in the schools, how many calories. And you may have, and they'll give certain age groups, from this age to this age, they get this many calories. But we know the metabolism rate of kids is different. We know that some are active in sports and are burning more fuel, that they need a greater calorie intake. But the government's trying
and they're growing.
Yeah,
they're growing,
absolutely.
For crying out loud.
Thank you for your call here today. Let's go next to Rick in Milwaukee. You're on the air.
Hi. After hearing this, I mean, this is Big Brother all over again.
Yeah.
And you had said something just a while ago, and that was my thought, that assuming that Obama loses this election, that on the window after the election and for the next 2 months, that could be a scorched earth where they will try to pass, who knows how many of these laws or I'll say guidelines. And this has got to be stopped now. And I'm actually praying to God he loses, because if he gets in there for like another 4 years, this issue of actually controlling the menus in schools, that's going to be nothing.
Okay, thanks so much, and keep in mind that it's not only it's also a Congress that has that lame duck session coming up here as well after the election. There are those who have been trying to ban lame duck sessions, but it's a very, very dangerous time for a nation such as ours. We'll be back in 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk here on VCY America.
On a national level, the Secretary of Defense has warned of cyber terrorism and the devastation such an attack could bring. On a personal level, computers and the Internet continue to revolutionize the way we live. But is our increasing dependence on these technologies stealing our privacy and setting us up for a devastating fall? In the book Cyber Meltdown, biblical apologist Ron Rhodes addresses Bible prophecy and the imminent threat of cyber terrorism. He examines what a cyber attack in the U.S. would look like. What new technologies seem to be paving the way for fulfillment of end-times prophecies in the Bible? How terrorists and opposing nations are using cyberspace as a weapon? how computer viruses spread and personal privacy has been compromised. To obtain your copy of Cyber Meltdown, send a donation of $17 or more to VCY America, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53208. To donate by phone, call 1-800-729-9829.
This is Crosstalk here on VCY America, and folks, as we've been hearing response to this from all over the nation, decided to bring it to let you speak forth on the matter. And it's not just what's coming forth in the cafeteria lines either, folks. It is issue after issue as an ever-encroaching government comes down into every facet of society. Here's a story that came down today from CNSnews.com. Women who want to play intercollegiate ice hockey probably won't apply to Merrimack College in North Andover, Massachusetts, because the small Catholic school doesn't have an ice hockey team for women. Okay, so here we have the small Catholic school does not have a women's ice hockey team. But that's about to change because there was a federal civil rights investigation, and now the school has had to agree to create 3 new female athletic teams, including a women's hockey team that eventually will play at the Division I level. This hockey team follows an investigation by the Education Department's Office of Civil Rights, which found the school had been in violation of Title IX, a federal law that prohibits sex discrimination in programs and activities that receive taxpayer money from the U.S. Education Department. So here, okay, you don't have a women's hockey team. Guess what? You have to do it because you get federal funds. Schools, you have to follow the dictates of our lunch menu because you receive federal funds. We have seen that take place with hospitals across this nation. Hospitals, if you take federal funds, like through Medicare payments, then therefore you must participate in providing the morning after pill or Plan B or giving abortifacients or on and on. And there is no limit to where this government is going as to say, okay, you get government funds in some regard, therefore you will now do this. Let's get your continued reaction to this story here today. Here at Crosstalk at 800-733-9829 to Monroe. And Kathy, you're on the air.
Hi. Yeah, it's amazing how the government mandates things on us, but they exempt themselves. I worked at a cafeteria for the school for many years, and it's amazing how children just take food and then they throw it in the garbage. You might as well just put the garbage can at the end of the line there. But for our government to be dictating, what, where to eat and what we can't eat, and I mean, what little child's going to want to eat hummus? I mean, but I just think I think it's just wrong. And granted, education, parents need to be an example. Try to provide healthy meals at home, but get people to exercise and. But just for this, government to take over our life, no, because they want to control everything.
Thank you for your comments here, Kathy. To Port Charlotte, Florida. Angela, you're on the air.
Yeah, my daughter attends a high school. She's in 10th grade, and she told me that her class, they picked out 86 perfectly good apples from the trash can in one day. And then she also told me that if they don't have 2 pieces of fruit on their tray, they get charged more money.
What?
And I asked her how much more money you're being charged, and she said she would have to get back to me on that because she wasn't certain. And I have to get back to the school to find out if this is really taking place, because my jaw dropped when I heard that they were charging more money for not having 2 pieces of fruit.
Well, that explains why so much is going into the trash container then, if they're penalized for not showing a visible representation on their tray that they're meeting the federal guidelines.
Well, and what's going to happen is they're going to start monitoring what kids are going to be throwing away, because they're going to hear all these complaints, and the government's, they're not going to sit back and allow it to happen. They don't do that, not anymore. But they're going to fix it somehow, and it's not going to be to our liking at all. They're just going to start monitoring and punishing kids for what they're throwing away. That's going to be the next step. They do.
Thank you for your comments here, Angela. To Minnesota, and Kathy, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm a teacher at a small school here in Minnesota, and one of my duties, since we are such a small school, is to be on lunch duty on Tuesday and Friday. So we had to implement these new federal guidelines this year, and I will say it has just been a nightmare because for a while we had like the fruit and vegetables on a separate station, like a salad bar, and we'd have to ask every kid, you have to take a fruit, you have to take a vegetable, and which fruit do you want, and which vegetable do you want? And it was just like getting really hosed up and taking forever. So then we had to change the system so that we just automatically put on what was required for that day. It's taken a lot more of the cook's time, and I do see many children throwing away a lot of food. So then we implemented some other rules, like, you can't come back for seconds if you don't eat this or that. It's just been a logistical nightmare. But I do want to say that, schools do not want to take over the duties of the parents. And there are so many things that we have to do now simply because the parents are not doing them at home. And I don't like the government interfering. I think it's wrong. But sometimes I can see why it happens.
Well, and this is coming down from the federal government. If anything, I mean, we should be looking at local control and local dealing with these issues, not federal mandates, one size fits all for every school across the nation. For every child at this age, this is what the requirement is. One
day I had a little boy, and he had to have 2 fruits. And I said, okay, what kind of fruit do you want? And he says, I want cucumbers. And I don't know. I always thought a cucumber was a vegetable, but anyway, I said, no, you have to have fruit. No, I want cucumbers. And I thought, well, cucumbers is just as healthy as a fruit. Why can't I give him the cucumbers? But, that's just how ridiculous it gets.
Wow. Thanks for the call here from Minnesota. Let's go next to Rod in Wisconsin. You're on the air.
Yes, just a couple of things. First of all, I would say, when you take the king's money, you play by the king's rules. And, there's got to be some ways that districts start looking at reducing the amount of federal money that they take. Play less by the king's rules. The other thing is, I would echo that a lot of food in the cafeterias at school is being thrown away. I used to teach, and it was a lot of food that the kids would just toss. So there's got to be something. I don't agree with the government mandating these kinds of things.
Thank you for your comments here today. By the way, again, the phone number is Dr. Janie Thornton. Thornton, Thornton, is the one responsible, according to media sources, for the implementation the implementation of the new school lunch mandates. Dr. Thornton's number is 202-720-7711. USDA's Food and Nutrition Service, 703-305-2281. And the general number to the USDA is 202-720-2791. Let's go next to Sheboygan. And caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, Jim. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
I'd just like to make a quick comment regarding, this mandating on a federal level of what local schools can do, and I just want to encourage, if possible. I think your previous caller, Rod, as well as your previous comment regarding, I think it had to do something with Catholic accepting federal monies, therefore they were under federal control.
The Catholic school didn't have anything there about finances, only that they were investigated by the Office of Civil Rights or their education department. I don't have all the details with that, other than that the federal government was mandating that they have a women's ice hockey team.
Okay. Well, I guess my point is just in principle in that the reason that they can mandate on a lawful or legal level from the federal area is because they're accepting funding from the federal government. And the same principle holds true with this mandating on what school lunch programs can do. The reason is, and I just want to encourage Christians as much as possible to study law, because this affects all of us. The reason is that we are we're under federal control, they can mandate our personal lives and tell us what and what not to eat because we are federal citizens. For example, the product of a marriage, a state-licensed marriage, any product of that marriage, which obviously would be children, is under state
let's
control.
Okay, I got your point here. Thanks so much. I want to stay here on the food issue. I understand there's some relation between these items here as well, but we also see this came through a legislative means by congressmen in a lame duck session to give USDA the new flexibility here to reform school lunch menus in schools all across the nation. Let's go to Marlene in Wisconsin Rapids. You're on the air.
Hello. Am I on?
You're on, Marlene.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I don't think government should be telling us what our children should eat or what we should feed our children. And looking back at it, I volunteered in schools a lot, and school lunch food isn't healthy for you anyway. So they're going to have you eating things they believe are healthy for you when that food isn't that healthy for you. I mean, it's canned and salted, and I don't see they're going to make the right choices either at all.
Okay, thank you, Marlene. Hey, I wonder, how long are we from the time in which you send a brown bag lunch with your child to school, school officials look through that and say, oops, these things should not be in there. That's abusive of your child's health. Therefore, we must call Department of Social Services to make a call upon you. Are we that far away from that taking place? Let's go to Pace, Florida, and Mac, you're on the air.
Yes, I just want to say that the main issue is control. When the Antichrist takes over, he wants to have control, or he wants to have control of the personal lives of every living soul on the earth. And our government, they don't know. They threw the Bible out. They don't know what they're doing, but they're helping to set up the system that the Antichrist will use to control those people. That's all I had to say.
Okay, and folks, by the way, your congressmen need to hear from you on this matter as well, because they're the ones, I should say that the last Congress is the one that gave authorization to this. There is legislation that has come forth by Representative Huelskamp to stop this, to block these, the implementation of this. And certainly you can contact your own U.S. Congressman at 202-225-3121. That's 202-225-3121. And it's important that they hear from you as well. Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Jim, you're on the air.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say this whole talk about receiving federal money is a joke because I pay federal taxes. It's my money. I mean, when did it stop being our money? Okay. Then secondly, yes, you do have to pay more. My daughter came home and told me that if she doesn't take a fruit, they have to pay more for their lunches. And thirdly, last year they used to be able to get mayonnaise and barbecue sauce along with mustard and ketchup. They have to pay extra if they want mayonnaise or barbecue sauce.
Wow,
they have to pay for it now.
So how much more do they pay if they don't take a fruit?
That I'm not sure of. I didn't check into it, but my daughter did come home and tell me that they have to pay more.
Thank you for the call here, Jim. How far are we from having to do our grocery shopping? And the clerk at the counter says, you haven't bought enough fruit today. You haven't bought enough vegetables today. Unless you put some fruit and vegetables on the conveyor belt here, you're going to have a 5% surcharge on your grocery bill. Are we that far away from this? I mean, that kids are being penalized, having to pay more if they don't have a piece of fruit. We'll be back in 1 minute.
For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I am Brandon House. Our website is worldviewweekend.com. Some within the Word of Faith, false teaching, proclaim that Jesus became a sinner on the cross. Some of them teach that Jesus had to spend time in hell because he became a sinner for us. Some teach that he had to become born again. Many take 2 Corinthians 5:21 out of context, where it says, "For he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us." We've been talking about this in our last couple commentaries. John MacArthur says, God made him to be sin. Well, what does that mean? That important phrase requires a careful understanding. It does not mean that Christ became a sinner. The above-mentioned verse, establishing his utter sinlessness, unequivocally rules out that possibility. As God in human flesh, he could not possibly have committed any sin or in any way violated God's law. It is equally unthinkable that God, whose eyes are too pure to approve of evil, would make anyone a sinner, let alone his only Son.
Congressman Huelskamp has introduced something called the No Hungry Kids Act that repeals the U.S.D.A. rule that created the new standards. It prohibits the U.S.D.A.'s upper caloric limits and will protect the rights of parents to send their children to school with the foods of their choice. The goal of the school lunch program, Representative Huelskamp says, was and still should be to ensure that students receive enough nutrition to be healthy and to learn. But the misguided nanny state, as advanced by Michelle Obama's Healthy and Hunger-Free Kids Act, was interpreted by the U.S. Secretary Vilsack to be a directive that because some kids are overweight, every child should be put on a diet. Parents know that their kids deserve all of the healthy and nutritious food they want. He's calling it the No Hungry Kids Act that he's introduced to Congress. Well, getting more of your reaction. And by the way, on the other side of this, here we have disturbing news that came out here several days back from the New York City Department of Education that is now furnishing morning after pills and other birth control drugs to students at several high schools without parental knowledge or consent. Government knows best. My question is, does it? Let's go next to Nancy in Indiana. You're on the air, Nancy.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine.
Good. Well, I have three ideas. And one, what do they do with their pregnant and nursing students? Are they exempt from the restriction? Two, the more that they require all students everywhere to be eating the government's planned meals, I would want to have that food tested for drugs. And three, I can see how this works in for the end game for Agenda 21 when, in their plan, they envision upscaled ghettos for all people that they allow to live, and those people, I can see, will be required to be on a vegetarian diet because herds of cattle won't be permitted to be out in grazing fields. And so to save money on feeding these people in these ghettos, you would want smaller framed people that require less calories. So all people that are big boned, tall, that require more calories to stay healthy, well, they're going to be targeted to get rid of.
So you don't see this, Nancy, as just staying in the schools?
Oh, no. I think they're priming the pump and working their way towards Agenda 21. This is part of Agenda 21.
Thank you, Nancy, for your thoughts. Earl in Mobile, Alabama, you're on the air.
Yes, how you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
I was thinking when y'all was talking about the schools and these kids had to eat all this and that, I got thinking, I says, well, I wonder what the president's doing when they're whining and dining in their halls up there and they're drinking their wine and eating their caviar and all this and that. So things like that ought to be cut out. That could save a lot of money for us, couldn't it?
Good question. James in Pelkey, Michigan, you're on the air.
Oh, yeah, thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to say quickly, I agree with a couple of the other callers who talked about basically with the shekels come the shackles. You know, if you take federal funding, they're gonna try dictating where the money is and how it's spent and what it's spent on. But I think it even this is in a bigger sense, it's even an indictment against the public school system in general. That to a certain point, if you abdicate your authority to the state to train your children, they're going to continually reach farther and farther into every aspect of their life. And I think the only way to retain control of your children and their education is to get them out of the Philistine schools and either homeschool them or get them in a Christian private school.
Thank you, James. Dorothy, Olney, Illinois, you're on the air.
Yes, I wanted to say that all children are different, and what they say is good for one kid, another kid might need a whole lot more of. Back when we didn't have the government sticking their nose in everything, we didn't have these hot meals at school. In the summer, we didn't have any, we didn't have any refrigerators and things, and in the summer, we all took our bag lunches. Everybody did. They didn't have bought school meals. And in the summer, when it was hot, we just had cheese and lettuce sandwiches until cooler weather, or else it was peanut butter and jelly. It wouldn't go bad.
And the point with all this is that parents should be able to pack that lunch that they believe is in the best interest of their own child, should be able to make determination as to the food that they're going to intake without having the federal government mandate that they have to have certain items either in their sack lunch or their cafeteria tray. To Johnson City, Tennessee, you're on the air, Greg.
Yes. I want to say that I think the parents should be allowed to send their kids to school with whatever they want for them to eat. Also, I think that they should be, we should be thankful to have anything at all to eat, and for the government to, become that sort of, encroaching upon people's lives, I think is just a little bit too much. Also, if I can make one more little point, I think that the United Nations is becoming a real big problem for those of us that live in the United States, that where we treasure our freedom and everything. And I think it's very conceivable that before too long, the United Nations is going to be trying to tell people in the United States what to eat, along with everything else that we can and can't do.
Well, Greg, what you're saying is not too far-fetched, because we are seeing things like the UN Convention on the Rights of the Children, where we have the bureaucrats who determine what's in the best interest of the child, and we're seeing that even attempting to be passed with this UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that government and bureaucrats, UN chiefs, know better about raising disabled children than their own parents, and that concept you shared just comes down in every aspect of society.
I actually sent an email to my congressman, Dr. Phil Rowe, several days ago, and I haven't gotten a response yet. He might not have even received it yet, but I sent an email to him to the effect of one of the things that I think the United States should do is get the United States out of the United Nations and get the United Nations out of the United States. I don't even know if that's feasible to do or not. I don't know if there's a way to get out or not, but if there is, I think that we should look into it.
Thank you for your comment. Brad, we have time for one quick comment from you in Chippewa Falls.
Well, I think that this lunch program is communism, cookie-cutter policies, and the other thing I want to say is the Democrats always portray themselves as pro-choice, but they want to eliminate every other choice in life, it seems.
Well, thank you for your comments here today. We've run out of time. And, folks, I guess this kind of brings us to the fact that we got a choice that we're going to go as a nation. Do we want a bigger, more powerful government? Do we want a lesser powerful government? What is the role of government? How do we respond to that government? Choices that we'll be facing here in days to come. Thanks for joining us today on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.